And hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. A lot of exciting things that happened over the past week, some very exciting things to be taking place in the upcoming week, and we've got four out of our five participants in here today. Jared braving the cold out at the Louisville Lacrosse Stadium to take pictures of the Cards' opening ACC game against Virginia Tech today at noon. But we've got Daryl in the house, we've got Jeff in the house, we've got Case in the house, and we've got Polly. So we'll have a lot to talk about today for you all on the broadcast. And as we like to do, let's kind of start it out with our participants today. We'll start with Daryl. Daryl said she already got her morning exercise in, and we've got to go a little further here, Daryl. What's the routine? What do you do to get your morning exercise in?
Well, the thing is that doesn't happen for me. It's usually an evening exercise or it doesn't happen. So I'm chalking today up as a win already.
There you go. The score is Daryl 1, exercise nothing. There you go. And celebrating with bacon for lunch, I bet.
I got a mouthful of Qdoba.
There you go. There's nothing like Qdoba, whether it's live or leftover. I agree with you.
It's my post game fuel or
I
post
never had
workout
live
fuel.
Qdoba.
Yeah.
You've never been in a Qdoba before, Case?
Oh, I was just saying I've never had it live.
Were you
Usually
there
bread's
live?
already
I mean, you were
finished
there
and
live,
cooked.
right? I mean,
Well, I was.
yeah. Let's go to Case Hoskins next there. Defend your statement. No, I'm just kidding. Case catches up. What's been going on with you this week, brother?
Oh, not a whole lot. Been a busy week getting the roof issues resolved, and jury duty keeps getting canceled. So that's been actually
Darn.
pretty nice. It's like, oh, maybe I'll ever have to go to the courthouse and then get a text. It's canceled for next week. Okay, guess not. So,
Just tell them you know the people in the case and then they'll.
well, I guess I might if they ever have a case that I would have to report for, but they keep getting canceled, so I don't have to go.
Yeah, and that's the best way to get out of it, for jury duty. To say, I've got a very strong feeling in this. And if they
Yes.
question you any further about that, say, well, I think the guy's guilty as hell.
This is a civil liability suit. Wow.
Oh, if it's a liability suit, they
I,
say, I
I,
hate that company.
I still think the guy's guilty as hell.
Yeah, but I think the owner's guilty as hell. I wouldn't buy anything from that company if they paid me to buy it. Fun and games in the corporate world. I loved my jury duty when I was on last time. It was just Jefferson County stuff, but I was in there with a couple people who had actually read Cardinal Couple before.
Hmm.
And
Nice.
so we would have these great meetings each morning talking about UofL sports and pray our number didn't get called. That's always the key. You hope that number doesn't get called. Jeff in the house with us. Jeff is talking to us this morning and has got some groundbreaking news. Maybe he's going to break later in the show here. A change of venue, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm on the road right now, so not at home. So this is a well traveled Cardinal Couple podcast, Radio Hour podcast. It's being streamed live from outside Phoenix, Arizona at the moment. So yeah, and coming down here, enjoying some warmth and some sun. Did have to drive through a bit of a blizzard to get here. Actually, small blizzard maybe, but made it through. Got here the other day and enjoying a little, still a little cool maybe for Phoenix normal this time of year, but a very pleasant day nonetheless. So
If it's above 50, you're okay, pal.
yeah, it'll be. I think it's supposed to be about 70 today here, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Wow.
We'll trade with you. We'll
Yeah.
trade with you right now.
Yeah. I am a bit dehydrated because I'm in a desert right now, and I'm just like I can't get enough liquids in me.
Well, you can always knock a cactus over and drink the cactus
Oh
juice.
no! Those legs are protected. That's a bad idea to do that.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
we don't want
there
you
are
to-
many right outside the window here that I'm looking out at. So yeah, but
Well,
yeah, they take that seriously here.
I understand that they do. I had a
Yeah.
friend one time. I had to pay civil charges for running
Yeah.
over a cactus.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
you got to take it seriously.
his defense that the cactus jumped out in front of me was not valid. They
All
shot
right.
him down on it.
It's that they don't move very quickly generally. So
As for me, just another week, kind of just me maintaining, taking care of stuff, doing some fun stuff, some stuff that's not so fun, but certainly I always look forward to Saturday mornings when we can get together and talk about UofL women's sports. And certainly a big one coming up Sunday for basketball. We'll get into that just a little bit later on. Here to catch us up with the scheduling and Twitter information, though, Case Hoskins.
Yeah, that caught me just as I was getting ready to open the ACC women's basketball standings in preparation for that conversation later. But already preparing to have to scroll to the bottom of the page and then scroll back to the top because we're at the end of the
it's
month.
the split week.
We're
Yeah.
at the end of the month, and Go Cards calendar doesn't know how to just do it by week instead of by month. First thing getting underway today at noon is the finals for all of the track stuff over at the ACC Indoor Track and Field Championships. Maybe a few more field events, but that's primarily wrapping up from yesterday and Thursday's qualifiers. Swimming, and it's actually a diving meet. They finally renamed this. We've been calling it the Last Chance Swimming Meet, but it's been the Last Chance Diving Meet all along that they've now put in the name. That one just got underway about 5 minutes ago. Men's tennis is taking on Indiana at noon. Noon hour is a busy one in Louisville today because lacrosse is getting ready to take on Virginia Tech starting at the same time. That one will be on ACC Network Extra. Jared's down there taking photos. Baseball taking on Dartmouth. They got a huge win in their home opener. Well, I guess it wasn't their home opener because they played earlier in the week, but their first home weekend. Big win yesterday. They're playing at 1 p.m. That one's also on the ACC Network Extra. Softball was scheduled to take on Kansas at 1, but as I wrote about today, that one has been canceled due to inclement weather down in Fayetteville. Men's tennis taking on Xavier at 5, and then men's basketball is in Winston-Salem. They're taking on Wake Forest at 7 p.m. tonight. Women's tennis is taking on North Carolina tomorrow at noon. They lost to Duke to open their ACC season yesterday. Baseball wraps up their series against Dartmouth at noon tomorrow. Then women's basketball with the big one Paulie mentioned against 14th ranked Notre Dame. That one is at noon. Was previously listed as ESPN, but that one will be on ESPN2. Then softball taking on Nebraska in that Woo Pig Classic in Fayetteville at 1:15. Not the Woo Pig Suey Classic, just Woo Pig.
Yeah. And it may be still a little uncertain from what I hear.
It maybe is in Fayetteville. There are some whisperings that all those teams might head up I-65, but I don't think that we've gotten anything confirmed for that yet.
No.
They've, I guess, got about 18 hours left to figure that out.
The logistics of that is nuts to me.
That would
Yeah,
be
I
tough.
mean, seriously.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll do that.
And why is it the Woo Pig instead of not the Woo Pig Suey?
Couldn't tell you.
Too many weird words in a row.
There's 3 O's in Woo, though. They want to make sure
Maxed
that you
out.
got. So I guess I've been saying it wrong. It's not Woo. It's the Woo Pig. You got to get the whole.
The Woo, 3 O's and
Yeah,
Woo.
3 O's,
Yeah, make
yep.
sure we've got that different than Suey. Is that chop suey or is it some other suey? I don't know. Tell me. The Arkansas
Make
folks
it
are
make
right.
sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's
like
SEC.
many things with
It
the
just
SEC.
means more, guys.
Just means more nonsense.
Yeah. More letters.
That that game, like we've been alluding to, against Arkansas, the 10th ranked Razorbacks, is at 6 p.m. Tomorrow evening. That is live video listed. No video for the Nebraska game, so not sure what the difference is there. But that one, like I said, at 6 p.m. On Monday, women's golf starts the Darius Rucker Classic in Hilton Head. Always.
I wonder if Darius will
Always
make an
funny.
appearance at this thing. You know, great artist, right?
I'll check his IG and see what he's doing.
Yeah.
Will he be like on the first tee singing to each group as they tee off? I don't know.
How
Couldn't tell you.
random.
But that's on Hilton Head, which is a great place to golf. Rowing is taking on Michigan in Caryville, Tennessee. So that one's a little
Could
odd.
be a little chilly down there.
Yeah. That one doesn't have a time listed for Monday, but we'll have to keep up with that one on Twitter, as we usually do, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then softball will play Nebraska and Arkansas again on Monday. The Nebraska game scheduled for 10:30 a.m. So an early start at that one, on that one, and then immediately following it at 12:45, taking on Arkansas. Not sure why they didn't give Arkansas their rankings on the Monday game on the schedule, but they did for Sunday. But I don't make these rules. On Tuesday, the women's golf event continues. Baseball takes on Morehead State at 3 p.m. in Jim Patterson. Lacrosse hosts Butler at 3 p.m. in the Louisville Lacrosse Stadium. That's not Butler High School, by the way. I don't think that their lacrosse team would fare very well. I don't think that they have a lacrosse team either, so that would definitely make them fare even more poorly against
But if
Louisville.
they did and they actually played Butler University, who would win?
If Butler High School played Butler University?
Yeah.
I would hope Butler University.
Yeah, I would think so.
Time would stop.
Well, what would be the home field? Where would they play the match?
I would
They're gonna
wager
play-
it would be at Butler.
They're going to play. There you
Jeff,
Ooh,
with the
they're going to
current
play at
kids.
Bellarmine.
I would go to Spalding myself, but since they don't have a lacrosse field or team, that's out. Okay.
Would the mascots battle it out in midfield?
And who are the mascots? We know who the Butler
mine's,
Bears.
Mine's on the Bears.
You're going to take the Bears either way, huh?
Versus a Bulldog, yeah. I think that Butler High School is going to
I don't know if the Bulldog sneaks up from behind, he could spook the bear. You never know.
Maybe. After that, men's basketball final game of the regular season, I believe. Nope, that's not true. Men's basketball taking on Virginia Tech. That one's at 9 p.m. So I don't even have to feel bad about missing that one because I'm just going to go to bed and not put myself through that. But that one is at 9 p.m. on ESPN2 on Tuesday evening. The women's golf event continues through Wednesday. That's the final day of the event. Softball has scheduled a game for Miami, a game at Miami University at 3 p.m. on Wednesday. It's just a throw a midweek game in there.
So they're actually going to go up to Miami instead of Miami coming here?
That's what's on the schedule here.
Interesting.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, it's March, so we can get out of the South and play games closer to home, and then we'll just go even further north, which seems like a bold choice. Thursday is an off day for everyone, surprisingly, before baseball brings in Akron on Friday to start a 3-game series. The first game is at 3 p.m. Softball then returns home for the Cardinal Classic. They'll host Hofstra for 2 games at 3 p.m. and 5:15. Men's tennis will split that as they host Clemson at 5. Everything after that on Saturday is at noon or later, so that got us through what is a busy schedule, as we've talked about, wrapping up the overlap between winter and spring sports. That'll even out a little bit, but then the spring sports will start playing more heavily.
Yeah.
So the schedule
It's
will not
busy.
get too much thinner.
A busy schedule indeed, sir.
Yeah. As I
And
mentioned
let's
previously,
also not forget, the ACC women's basketball tournament does start Wednesday.
yeah, that's odd that they don't list that at all. Yeah, that's weird. What are you doing, Go Cards? I mean, they've got the men's basketball ACC tournament like already listed on all the days for the following week, but not sure why they don't have the women's.
Maybe they ran out of character space.
Maybe
they did
so.
not. Thursday's completely empty, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And the Louisville women's will probably not play until Friday.
Friday, right.
So I can understand them not listing Wednesday and Thursday.
Guaranteed not play until Friday.
Yeah, but they were guaranteed. Yeah, they are guaranteed now not to play till Friday. Who they'll play, of course, is obviously still up in the air. We'll see on that. But always such a great time of the year down in Greensboro for that tournament. I really am kind of saddened that I'm not going to be able to go this year. But I've had some great times down there in the past and a lot of fun and run into some great people. Having Courtney Walton invited me to sit on the Georgia Tech bench was probably one of my highlights down there. And I was like, Courtney, I'm dressed in red and black here. I
Yeah.
don't know if Nell Fortner would like that.
Yeah. Not sure that would be allowed anyway by the rules.
Well, down at the end of the benches, sometimes they in Greensboro they actually have seating for like high profile fans,
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
opposed to like we do with the courtsiders.
That was a
Except
little
our
humble brag by
courtsiders.
Paul that he's a high profile fan.
I'm a what?
I said that was a little humble brag that you're a high profile fan.
Well, not really. I mean, where I sit are nice seats. Obviously, a lot of people would like to have them for media coverage, except when they put me in the end zone and I've got cheerleaders in front of me and the band right behind me, and it's well, if you've got ADD, it's definitely not the place you want to be. Okay, it's just your cheerleaders come and then throw their pom poms on my table, and that's a no. They can't do that. I'm busy here.
It's a wonder how you get anything covered with all that going on.
Yeah, and especially when they stand, on free throws, when they stand up and do the backflips, and I can't see how it's going, so I've got to look at the screen up ahead.
And then you got the band members behind you yelling in your ear or putting a trumpet up next to your head.
And the guy who plays the bass guitar, yeah, it's like he's drilling for oil.
Best seats in the house.
that reverb comes right through my chair, up through my spine. Dude, please, you don't have to play to every song that the DJ plays. Okay, it's not necessary. But enough of that nonsense. It's certainly starting out Wednesday. And I did want to mention before we get into the main things, that we will have the annual ACC WBB Cardinal Couple Classic Pick'em, where you get a chance to win valuable gift cards if you can pick the most winners in the ACC WBB tournament coming up. Jeff will probably throw a blurb in there about that Sunday, I would think, in his article. I'll definitely cover it in detail Monday, because Monday we will actually know the actual matchups. And then we, of course, will start taking entries on a Sunday night if you want to get in the tournament once they have announced the brackets, which looks like that may not be until 8 or 9 o'clock on Sunday night, gang, because a very important game in NC State versus Virginia Tech goes off at 6, and depending on who wins that, it could kind of affect the standings for the actual tournament. So, but if you'd like to enter the tournament, feel free to put your selections in any of our comments sections leading up to Wednesday at noon, and you can also send an email to Jared or send an email to me, and I'll have that information for you in Monday's article on where you can send your entries. We always get a good turnout for this. It's always fun competition. And we've actually got a past winner here on the line with us today, too. As Daryl, I think, got a second place one year. Was that right?
I think it was a couple years ago. But
Couple
yeah,
years.
it's been a while. Need to do better this year.
I think it was like the first one you entered. You like kicked everybody's butt. You're like, really?
I pay attention.
Yeah.
She had inside intel.
Right.
She knew how the games were going to turn out in advance. But it's always fun, a lot of competition, and we get some nice little message board, or not message board, but comment section rivalries about people.
Yeah.
So, I'm beating the hell out of Arthur because he picked Clemson to go to the final.
I applaud him for his faithfulness to his team.
He loves his team, even though he's not very happy with them right now.
Since you mentioned the comment section, I know that a lot of people probably rely on us for some news, but I do rely on the comment section every now and then. I like to check in and see what people are saying. So shout out to the comment section, because I feel like they inform us just as much as we inform them.
Oh, yeah, they do. And it's great to read some of the comments in there, too. And just to give you an idea, looking at some of Friday's comments, as somebody is, I'm not sure if they were accusing Pittsburgh or K. Stark Sr. about being a cornered dog, defending himself.
Yeah.
Knowing K. Stark.
We weren't sure.
Yeah. He took offense to being considered a cornered dog. Okay. Whatever. That's the way it works. But
they were anonymous, though, so you got to take those with a grain of salt.
That's the whole thing. And Charlie Springer has always gotten on me, but you can't allow anonymous comments on your website. And I'm like, why not? I
I
don't. I
mean,
don't have to know everybody who's making a comment.
in many communities, that's a problem. But it, thankfully, at least so far, has not been for us, which is wonderful
Yeah,
and a
we'll
testament
get
to.
the occasional UK guy jumps in there and
Eh,
says something derogatory, but I'm pretty quick on the delete button if I see one of them come in. So that doesn't happen much anymore. But hey, let's move it on into the meat and bones of the show here, as we have basketball to talk about. Let's start it out with basketball, and we'll start it out with Sunday action at the KFC Yum Center, where Louisville brought in Virginia Tech. The Cards started out well, had kind of a rough fourth quarter, but still beat the Hokies 70-56. Big games for Louisville out of Haley Van Lift with 20 points, Emily Inkster with like 19 points, 15 rebounds, did everything but carry the water in after the game and made sure Jeff Walls, was showered and shaved and everything else. Emily just a fantastic game against the Hokies. And Louisville with the win went to 13-2 at the time, 23-3 overall. Daryl, this was a fun one to watch, and then certainly I think one of the things that really impressed me about that is the Cards weren't able to contain Elizabeth Kitley, who I still consider the best center in the ACC. But they did shut down Asa Shepard, and they also shut down a very good player in Georgia Moore for the win.
Yeah, and it was senior day, so a good crowd out there for that last home game. I think they had over 10,000, and that's always good for these players. And I think last weekend we were getting the decisions by the other seniors if they were going to come back or not before the senior ceremony. So we got the announcement that some of our most senior players and our bench players are coming back. So that's exciting. Liz Dixon, Alana Smith, and Mikasa Robinson using that extra year. So those are really key players for this team, and they're going to come back next season. But on the Virginia Tech game, I actually didn't get to watch that. I was out golfing, guys. Don't get upset, but I was following on my phone. But it kind of seems like these last few games, to finish out the regular season, this team's just going through the motions, trying to get back in the win column and secure a better spot in the conference tournament. And definitely wanted to bounce back after that North Carolina loss. But you mentioned Kitley, and she is definitely one of the best players in the conference, and somebody that's going to be a thorn in U of L's side for a while, to a couple more years, I imagine. But yeah, the U of L got to their average about 70 points and held Virginia Tech to what they've been holding most opponents. So, like I said, it just feels like kind of going through the motions to finish out the regular season, and clean up some of the issues they'd been having up until this point. They did win the rebounding margin against Virginia Tech, which is a huge stat for me for this team to go far in the tournament.
And it was, if you look at it, Case, it was a Cardinal lineup against Virginia Tech where Walls stayed primarily with about a 7-player personnel out on the court at times, as Alana Smith, Peyton Verhulst, and Marissa Russell did see a little bit of action. I think about 5-6 minutes each, but Walls pretty much stayed with his starting five plus Dixon and Robinson in this one.
Yeah, and you mentioned Elizabeth Kitley getting hers, and I think we've touched on it briefly last week. When you have a player that is a star for an opposing team that plays primarily and predominantly inside the paint, if that player is going to, that player is usually not going to beat you on their own, right? You can kind of let a player that's going to score 2 points score 2 points each shot, score those points, and prevent the other players from hurting you from outside. They held Virginia Tech to 4 of 17 3-point shooting, and I think the lineup reflected that. Obviously, Olivia and Liz only played a combined 35 minutes. So you look at that, and then Marissa Russell picking up 6 minutes there at the end, but they weren't playing any kind of oversized lineup to try and contain Kitley. They were just letting her play her game and saying, if you score what she did, if you score 21, we're just going to make sure that the rest of your team can't make up that difference. Next highest score for Virginia Tech was 11, and then those were the only two players in double digits for Virginia Tech. So Louisville's game plan was really kind of, we'll do our thing on offense. Elizabeth Kitley, you can just go play under the basket for all we care, and we're going to make sure that nobody else can get hot from behind the 3-point line, and it worked.
And I think one of the tactics that Louisville did try is they were attempting to foul Kitley quite a bit. She ended up going 7 for 10 from the free throw line. But Jeff, I've got 3 numbers here that were definitely in the Cards' favor. First of all, points in the paint. Louisville with a 44-16 advantage, points in the paint. Points off turnovers, the Cards 21-11 over the Hokies in that. And certainly last but not least, second chance points. Louisville dominated here 15-4. To me, that shows a lot of aggression, hustle, and certainly working the ball into where you could score, even if it wasn't the centers. Emily Engstler has been known to score in the paint before.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, kind of picking up on what Case was talking about there. We didn't play a particularly big lineup compared to what we normally do. We did have Olivia and Liz in there for a lot of it, but we were doing a lot of double and tripling down on Kitley. So when she would get the ball, that defense would just collapse in on her, which did give her some troubles. She was still able to score those 21 points, but we're able to kind of prevent her from generating offense from other people with that, the inside out passes and stuff like that. So I think that comes into play a little bit as well. But yeah, the Virginia Tech is not they're not going to get in the passing lanes. They're not going to disrupt your offensive flow very much. And you've always really able to take advantage of that. Of course, that's kind of the DNA of the Louisville team, is that defensive intensity, disrupting passing lanes, forcing turnovers, creating transition offense. So when we're able to do that well, we usually do pretty well in the game overall. And I think that's what we saw a bit.
This was a game there where the Cards were up by 24 early in the fourth quarter and certainly had it out of reach. But then Virginia Tech scored some meaningless points at the end there to kind of cut it back down to the 14-point margin. But certainly a big win for the Cards, because they're, if you take a look at it, if things turn out the way they might in the tournament, the Cards could actually be seeing this Virginia Tech team down the road again if they happen to make it to the semifinals. Of course, a tough road ahead of them. They would have to beat NC State twice to do that. But Daryl, certainly, I think a game that the Cards fans were happy with the 14-point win. Certainly one that I was worried about playing Virginia Tech, but Louisville came through.
Yeah, as you should be. This is one of those teams that starting to really come together, and I know it didn't show on Sunday, but you mentioned Asia Shepard and Georgia Amore. Like, these are good players, and we were able to shut those guards down and let the center do what she wanted to do. But this team's not going to go away, and we'll see them in the tournament, I'm sure. At least I'll have them moving on based off that starting roster, but they did play a short roster against us. I'm not sure the exact reason, if that's all they have available. Does anybody know? Or it was just short that night. But it's still a really good starting roster, and I would have them moving further against plenty of other teams in the ACC. I mean, they are ranked. They they put up a good fight, and most teams have been doing that fourth quarter thing against UofL. Not sure if it's the bench players coming in and it's just not as lockdown defense against them, but you give them a little room to breathe, make them think they have a chance, and then shut them down. It's the Jeff Walls. That's his tactic, guys. He's tricking them for the postseason, thinking they can do something against us, and then just shut them down.
The Cards left the friendly confines of the KFCM Center on Thursday to travel to Pittsburgh which, as Daryl proudly pointed out to us, is the city of brotherly love.
Oh my gosh, guys. I don't even know what I did there. I don't even know what I Googled.
Fortunately, we caught that in time and we were able to make the correction on it. Uh, but it just makes me wonder if they're the city of brotherly love. What is Philadelphia?
It's
Steel
actually
City?
Pittsburgh is yes, something about
Well,
bridges. City of
They got
Bridges.
that giant bell, right? I mean, what's it made out of?
I looked it up. I think Pittsburgh is the city of bridges. Bridges.
That was
And
Cleveland.
Jeff and I have always called them the Steel City. Yeah.
That's
But-
right too, I guess.
They got a whole football team.
But and they do. Their football team's named after the Steel City. And
So
but you are
Pittsburgh-
right. There are a ton of bridges in
Pittsburgh's most common nicknames: City of Bridges, Iron City, Steel City, the Berg, the 412, the Paris of Appalachia.
I've literally
City of
never heard.
Champions.
Hang on. I'm gonna come back to one of the ones you just said, but I've literally never heard Pittsburgh called the city of bridges, and also the Paris of Appalachia is chef's kiss of a
The
nickname for
Paris of
any city.
Appalachia. That has some dubious connections there. Well, it doesn't. It?
Yeah, we'll have to look that up a little more.
When
Let's
I
see.
think of Pittsburgh, I think of Terry Bradshaw. So that's just where my mind goes anyway. Okay. But yeah, they did go to Pitt. Pitt was intent, Jeff, on an upset of the Cards and actually played Louisville very, very close. It was actually 35-35 at one point in the third quarter before Louisville eventually pulled away to win this one 66-55. But Pitt definitely came in and gave us a game for quite a while. Have we lost Jeff?
He's just on mute, but I don't know.
Yep. Sorry, I forgot to put myself on mute.
It's fine.
Yeah. 3 players in double digits. 3 players scored 11 points. One scored 8. So they came in and they played aggressively. They played well. They mostly kept their head. They got flustered by our defense a bit, but that's not uncommon, as we've talked about before. But credit the team doing pretty well against this. Of course, they're on their home floor in the Pete. Nobody expected Pitt to win. Nobody expected this to be even close for them. So for them to be even a close game like this is, you got to think is a moral victory. I know coaches don't really like moral victories much, but it certainly was. They looked pretty good against what's a pretty good team in Louisville.
Just looking at some of the numbers here, Daryl, the Cards were horrible from the free throw line in this one against Pitt, 10 for 19. That's barely over 50%. Pitt out-rebounded Louisville 53-41. Another factor that makes you kind of shake your head and go, how did that happen?
I cringe.
Pitt only scored 19 baskets on the evening, but they made 16 free throws. So they were getting to the line if they weren't hitting from the floor that much. The Cards did have 9 steals and 8 blocks in this one, however. But it was a win. It wasn't one that I would chalk down as one of Louisville's highlight wins of the year, Daryl, but certainly a W that did put us up to 24-3.
Definitely not a highlight win, but a win's a win. And I know I've said it before. It's just kind of going through the motions, finishing out this season. I know the team's looking forward to the postseason and seeing how far they can go. But oh my gosh, that rebounding thing. I just can't understand why we keep losing that battle. And I don't know if I'm being harsh in the Fred reports or if you guys would give them the same letter, but the guards have got to get in there more. I mean, Haley Van Lith with 3 rebounds. Come on, she's got to get at least 3 more. And you said that 8 and 9 blocks and steals. All right, I'm gonna say it. Emily had a beautiful block that she was called for a foul, and it goes to show how she has grown. I want to know what Coach Walls did with her to have this conversation about her fouls and her temperament on the floor, because when that happened, that she wanted to scream her head off, that it was all ball, but she walked away. She didn't even show anything on her face. She just walked away, and I think that just goes to show her her growing and willingness to do better for this team and for her draft stock. And she put on a show for us with 17 points, 15 rebounds, leading all scorers. And I can't believe the Cards only had two 3-pointers in this game. And the free throws also a huge head scratcher. 10 of 19. That's just not going to cut it. They're lucky to get this win. Pittsburgh wanted to make it close there in the end again, making a 2-possession game with just under 2 minutes left. But it was the Emily show, and every single time they got it close or tied it up, she was fighting. She was fighting under the basket for that ball. If she missed the shot, she was going up higher than anybody, and she would take 3 or 4 attempts before she got it in, and you could just tell how exhausted she was, how much energy she pours into this team. And she is a huge difference maker for U of L this year, and it's kind of shocking she's not being included in that ACC Player of the Year conversation. I mean, I know she hasn't been here very long, and I know that Alyssa Cunane and Kitley are great, but she should be in the conversation at least.
And I've got it on good authority too. Unconfirmed, but good authority that Jeff Walls installed a bark collar on Kelly, so that if she were to complain about anything,
I picture her, Coach Walls, and then the other assistant coaches all like just barking in her face, and she has to keep a straight face.
it,
You know what I mean? Like
it's kind of like boot week, when you enlist in
something.
the army or something.
Exactly.
Does this upset you, Private Inkster? Are you upset now?
Exactly.
All you need is our Lee Army,
We need some
barracks.
behind the scenes. Nick Evans, you got that?
Behind the scenes with Daryl and Emily Inkster. How does the bark collar affect you when, like, you're yelling at somebody across campus? Pain, dreadful pain. But the Cards got that one, and sure, we would have liked to seen another 41-point blowout, but it didn't happen. Pitt, of course, obviously defending their home turf in front of 200 fans, maybe. And
yes, that's what I was thinking. You said something about the home crowd earlier. I was like,
they weren't much of a factor. Let's put it that way. I think they were.
Well, it was at the Pete, so they didn't have the Louisville crowd supporting them. How about that?
They had the cheerleaders, though. The cheerleaders were dispersed around the arena. That's another thing, Paul. I wish our cheerleaders would be dispersed around the arena like other places are.
Oh, gee, I would love that.
It'd be great.
We have a crowd, so they don't have to disperse the cheerleaders to pretend that there are people in those seats.
Well, hey, get them cheering. Get them off their feet.
All I know is there were probably
you all know my gripes with the cheerleaders.
More people working the concession stands up there than there were in the seats. Okay, that's an indication that hey, Lance, they're not showing up to see you guys. But it was surprising that Pitt did not have Jayla Everett, who they had inexplicably dismissed from the team on Sunday after keeping her out of 2 games. Then he finally gets her and goes, oh, well, she's not going to play for us the rest of the year.
Does anyone know why?
Their leading scorer. And yeah, the inquisitive mind brings up the question here, gang. What did she do that was so bad that they decided to dismiss her after keeping her out of 2 games before that?
Because I want to know if we want her. Are we going after her?
That's the whole thing. Because she is in the portal.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
guess we'll find out.
Yeah, that's a bag full of questionable trick-or-treat candy there. I don't know if you take the chance on that.
Or if we even need her.
Well, obviously it worked with Inkster, but that's a whole different set of circumstances. I would think somebody like maybe a Clemson or maybe a Virginia Tech, goes after her, but who knows? Yeah. She could end up out in New Mexico State. You just never know about stuff like that.
I bet she goes to Duke.
Well, Duke certainly, one that likes to take ACC players. We sent 2 down there, or actually 2 migrated down there. They got I think 1 from Syracuse or 2 from Syracuse, maybe, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with that and where she ends up. But so that moves us into what's going to take place on Sunday up at the Purcell Pavilion in Joyce Arena, Joyce Center up there, where the Cards will take on Notre Dame, a Notre Dame team that probably remembers when they came down here and played us earlier in the season, and will probably be looking for a little bit of payback in this one as the Cards go up there Case, this is a game that scares me just a little bit here. Like some have this year, playing Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is never easy.
No, it's been kind of weird. Louisville historically, in all sports, has this extremely bitter rivalry with Notre Dame. Um, that is one of those rivalries that developed really organically, which is always a fun rivalry to have. It's not like Virginia or Virginia Tech. Even Virginia Tech was a little more organic, but Virginia, where they're like, "You guys are the cross-conference rivals," and everybody's like, "Well, are we? Who cares?" But the one with Notre Dame spans all sports. Everybody really gets up for it, and in most sports, those games are down to the wire. We talk about how you almost always go into extra innings or overtime or um, penalty shootouts, stuff like that. But the last few seasons, Louisville versus Notre Dame have been one-sided games, one way or the other. Louisville's been on the top of those most recently, including that 26-point win earlier this season. And you talked about it earlier. Notre Dame is fighting for ostensibly an opportunity to play Louisville a third time, right? If they can beat Louisville, um, and then presumably Virginia Tech loses to NC State, then that puts Notre Dame on the 3 seed line in Greensboro and sets them up to play Louisville again on Friday night. So, or sorry, that would be Saturday. But either way, it's going to be tough. Notre Dame playing for a lot. They're still a top 25 team. Louisville is still playing for more than it seems. That 2 seed is locked up, but you'd like to make a good run in the ACC tournament. You'd like to finish your season strong and try to stay on the one line if you can for the NCAA tournament. So I don't know. And Notre Dame is like what I said. Any game with Notre Dame is weird. It's hard to make any predictions, but I think that Louisville's put up a couple of, or a few, I guess you could say, meh performances over the last couple of weeks, and really since that Notre Dame game. So we'll see if they can use this, like I said, big rivalry to kind of bounce back and get back on track before the postseason starts.
And this battle for third seed and fourth seed in the conference could be very interesting going down to the final regular season games because both Notre Dame and Virginia Tech are 13-4 in conference. Obviously, Virginia Tech has a little harder row to hoe tomorrow when they play North Carolina State, but then it's not easy for Notre Dame either having to play us. So, what happens if both of them lose and they both go to 13-5? Well, I guess you go back and take a look at the matchup between the two and see how that occurred during the regular season to determine who your 3 and who your 4 seed is. But
Well, then you've got North Carolina could be sitting at 13-5 as well.
well, you've got a North Carolina team right now that is got a very, very good season going on. Case they're 12-5, so if they were to win, they'd be 13-5. Playing Duke at home too, so it could be an advantage for them to get that game. And then you're right, you'd have 3 teams at 13-5, provided both that Notre Dame and Virginia Tech were to lose. And who's on first? I don't know. Third base.
Notre Dame does have the tiebreaker over Virginia Tech in the head.
Notre Dame does have the tiebreaker over Virginia Tech. So,
Yeah.
And anyway, if you're one of the top 4 seeds, you're basically in the driver's seat as far as not having to wear yourself out in 2 consecutive days before going to the quarterfinals, right? It's awfully hard for a team to go in. And the last one I can remember doing, I think, was Syracuse a few years ago, who actually had to play on a Wednesday and then one on a Friday to get to Saturday. But I think they got blown out in the semis. But it's hard to do, to play 2 straight and then go in and, oh, I'm playing one of the top 4 seeds now. Gee, this will be fun, right?
If I'm seeing this correctly, it looks like a Virginia Tech loss puts Notre Dame on the 3 seed line no matter what, because they also would own the head-to-head tiebreaker over North Carolina.
So, so while we're at it, let's just go ahead and run down the current conference standings. I think that'd be a fun thing to do, to let everybody kind of know where things are sitting with 1 game left to go. Of course, obviously the number 1 seed, North Carolina State. The Cards number 2, As of right now, Notre Dame is the 3 seed, and Virginia Tech is the 4 seed. So they right now ostensibly would go into Friday action unless things change on Sunday. 5 seed UNC. You got the 6 seed Georgia Tech, who's been in kind of a slump lately. Not too confident in what Georgia Tech's been doing. Your 7 seed Boston College and your 8th seed Miami, and 9 seed Florida State. So, who are the lucky ones that it looks like who get to play on Wednesday, the opening day of the tournament? Uh, Duke is number 10 seed right now. I think there's a slight chance that they could move up, maybe, and challenge Florida State a little bit. No, there isn't. I'm sorry. Duke is a solid 10 seed. Let's withdraw that. So they would get the 16 seed that day, which could be either Virginia or possibly even Pitt. And then just to break down the rest of them, Wake is number 11 seed, Syracuse number 12, Clemson number 13, and then you have Pitt and Virginia to break down the final 15 teams that will be taking place in the ACC tournament. Let's kind of take it around the bat here. Any matchups that intrigue you here, Jeff? Any walkthroughs you think to the various brackets for any one particular team?
I haven't looked through the scenarios, but the only thing that really is interesting to me is North Carolina and the question of whether they could step up into that 4 seed spot. Have we looked at that? They're sitting at 12-5. Virginia Tech's at 13-4.
Pulling up Virginia Tech's schedule right now to see what they would have done.
Yeah.
Because if they were to win, and then Virginia Tech and obviously
they
Notre Dame
split.
They split, so it starts getting into really complicated tie-breaking scenarios. Okay, so potentially then North Carolina could sneak up into that 4th position.
Play rock paper scissors at that point, right?
It ends up points for
common opponents.
It gets really complicated. So
seems like they change the ACC tournament tiebreakers every year, so you can never remember what they are year to year.
Georgia Tech being a 6 seed interests me, Daryl, because they've been, a team that's kind of on the decline a little bit. If things were to stay the way they were, they'd get the winner of Wake and Pitt on Thursday. I don't see that they'd have any trouble there, but that would send them to a quarterfinal match against Notre Dame.
It's like you knew that's the team that I was looking at their schedule. Just a little shocked the way that they've kind of fallen off, and it's still a team that I wouldn't want to face. So yeah, Georgia Tech is somebody I would keep my eye on, and North Carolina as well. But again, this Notre Dame game tomorrow is looming for UofL. I think it's got potential to be tougher than we expect. I do think that they expect it to be tough. I do. I mean, Notre Dame's undefeated at home this season, and it's not an easy task to them. So the Cards can't come out slow, and they can't finish slow in that one. So Cards got to get a victory, and I try to pay attention to all those scenarios, but a lot to wrap my brain around. But Georgia Tech is one that I wouldn't want to face, and North Carolina anywhere. But I do want the rematch with North Carolina State soon. I think that'll happen.
And if Georgia Tech, who does have Wake Forest tomorrow at Wake Forest, should get through that one, they'd be 11-7 to finish out. But some of the other games tomorrow, and some good matchups here, gang. Boston College goes to Syracuse. Boston College at 9-8, Syracuse 4-13. Of course, we go to Notre Dame. Georgia Tech at Wake Forest, we mentioned that. Another interesting one to me here that's coming up is the game that FSU is going to Pitt. If Pitt loses this, they're all of a sudden the foundation of the conference, as Virginia would actually jump over them and take over the 15 seed because Virginia did beat Pitt in the regular season. So other matchups, of course, you've got Duke at UNC. I'd like to see Duke pull the upset, but I doubt that'll happen at UNC. Clemson and Miami. Miami's been playing some pretty good ball lately, and I don't think Clemson's got much to hope for in that one. Then, of course, it taps off at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. NC State at Virginia Tech. Case, there's just some really good games here. Like we said, a lot of positions still yet to be kind of determined.
Yeah, it's pretty much everybody in the conference outside of, the bottom 3 or 4 and the top 2 have something that they're, really playing for tomorrow, which can create some really dangerous games for those top 2 teams. I think that Louisville and NC State both survive a loss as far as the NCAA standings go. I think Louisville and NC State both survive a loss, provided that they would meet up again in the finals. I think that if either one lost tomorrow and lost before the finals in the ACC tournament, then one of those two, then they would fall off of the number 1 seed line. Louisville probably would fall off of it even with just a loss tomorrow, but hopefully not. Hopefully we don't see that. It's going to be interesting. Unfortunately, the ACC tournament, as far as that goes, Louisville's first game, all the games on Friday are regional sports network games. So,
Right.
And I hate that.
My favorite.
Glad that we have our own network on which to play games, and we're playing a tournament in one of the top sports for the conference. But nope, let's put those
It's
on.
like they don't want us to watch. I just don't get it.
One of the possible only saving graces here, gang, is that they'll probably use some of the ACC network announcers to switch over to Ballet Sports or whatever your RSN affiliate is to call these games.
I doubt that.
Yeah, I doubt it, because it'll be Fox. That's Fox Sports versus ESPN. I mean, ESPN's
So
contract.
you're saying no, huh? Okay.
I don't think
they will. Yeah.
I don't know. Why do you want to bring in somebody like Joe Bitzvik from Albuquerque to call the game when you've got Deb Antonelli who's going to be there anyway?
Because money.
Why put him on RSN?
Yeah.
Like, I can understand. I can see Wednesday, Thursday games being on RSN, whatever. But once you get to the top 4 seeds on Friday, I mean, you have a network. And they're only using the ACC network for Saturday. The championship is on ESPN. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the ACC network needs to fight a little stronger to try and get these, but then we don't know how long contracts run on this.
Yeah.
So enjoy Valley Sports, kids, for a couple of days there. And the guy announcing the game from New Jersey who has no clue who's in the ACC, much less who's playing. So there we are. Always fun times. So with that all coming up, we'll certainly have much more on the Cardinal Couple website leading up to the ACC tournament. Make sure and follow along. Plus a full recap of the Sunday action against Notre Dame. So in the little time we've got left here, let's kind of take a look at what is actually going on today and tomorrow. We'll start with today with lacrosse, bringing in Virginia Tech in lacrosse at the Louisville Lacrosse Stadium, where it's probably a chilly 36 degrees out there right now. Jared out there, in his long johns, getting ready to take photos.
How does he even take pictures if he can't feel his fingers?
That's true. And how do you take pictures from inside, the little yum, when you're looking through the plate glass window? There's got to be a glare. No, he'll be out there braving it. We did actually get our lone ACC conference win of career against Virginia Tech last year, but from what I'm reading, Virginia Tech may be just a little better team than we met last year. So, what do you think about this one? Do the Cards start out the ACC with a win? Jeff, certainly Louisville's had a couple 9-point-plus wins in their last couple games. Are they peaking right now?
I hope so. Obviously looking to find some success in the ACC, which has been a challenge. We see this team every year. We've watched them under Teeter's tutelage that they keep getting a little better, and that's I'm quite okay with getting a little better every time you go out, and that's how you eventually get there. But I'd love to get to the point where we can start seeing some wins, significant wins and consistent wins in ACC play. I hope so. I think we're getting close. I think we're getting on the edge of that. So I hope to start seeing it happen.
And the Cards have got some proven scorers on the team this year, although not having Rachel Flork in goal, certainly a learning process, I think, for the squad right there. But you know, in case the ACC, I think has the best lacrosse conference in the NCAA for women's lacrosse, and certainly anytime you play in that conference against anybody, it's going to be a challenge for Louisville.
Yeah, a non-revenue sport and the ACC being the best conference in it. Name a better matchup. Um, Louisville, even 2 years ago, Louisville went undefeated or winless in conference, and then missed the NCAA tournament despite being ranked in the top 25. So, it's tough. Or I guess I should have said 3 years ago. 2 years ago was COVID. Um, but it's tough for this team to keep going out and feel like they've got a really good team, a really good chance, and to go up against buzzsaws of teams in conference. To their benefit, I think the way that lacrosse schedules is very interesting, where you play non-conference games, much like field hockey, play non-conference games throughout the season. Um, and Louisville has the opportunity to show their worth against some of those non-conference teams and get back on track after maybe a tough loss or two in conference. But Louisville's history against Virginia Tech, 6-3 all time, like we mentioned, the lone ACC win for Scott Teeter. Um, and Louisville's questions have been defensive this season. Offensively, they've been very good. Um, I like their chances in a game that um, runs up the score, where they're just trying to race against each other in scoring. Louisville has shown that they can do that very well, scoring 18 goals in the last two games. So can the offense outpace the defense while the defense catches up through this first portion of the season? Well, we'll see. Will that be enough against Virginia Tech again? We'll see. But I think that the defense will come along quickly. It's just how long can the offense buoy them until they can.
Softball takes place tomorrow, as far as we know. Where we're not positive yet. We think it could be in Fayetteville, although whether the teams decide to pack up and head to, I don't know how much warmer Louisville would be. I think we're maybe in the 60s tomorrow, possibly. Or will they go ahead and take the Woo Pig in Fayetteville as originally scheduled, with these schedules altered to Sunday and Monday? Daryl, not an easy stretch here for the Cards with 4 games in 2 days against two pretty good teams here in Nebraska and Arkansas.
Yeah, and Jared said in our group text the other day just how difficult scheduling is for this time of the year or these sports and spring sports, and it's just, yep, it goes to show what we deal with every year. I feel like softball always has this kind of up in the air, not sure how the weather's going to act. And I did look at the radar trying to see what they saw today, and it's lots of pink and purples down there. So I'm not sure. I'm not a weather expert. I'm not a meteorologist, but I don't see how driving with the storm would help because it's kind of heading that direction. I think you would go, more west to get away from it. But I'm not a meteorologist. But got to get these wins where we can, get the good games in. As you said, the host team, Arkansas, top 10 team, and trying to play them twice in 2 days. And yeah, it's this is a fourth year with Holly April, and I'm excited for this team and see what they can do. They've started off better this year than they have in previous years, and I can't remember who pointed it out, but just the way that April has changed the lineup is just huge. I think that the team is smarter on bases. Their base running is better, and they're finding ways to get points on the board. So it's fun to watch so far. We'll see what they do, but this is something that happens every season with spring sports and definitely softball with the schedule changes.
And Jeff, at least Holly has a pretty veteran pitching staff going for. When you take a look at who's back, of course, Roby's back. You've got a very, very good pitcher in Taylor Roby, probably the ace of the staff. But then a couple of other good pitchers, too, for the Cards that didn't do a whole lot last year because of injuries and such, but are still there.
Yeah, excuse me. Chardonnay Harrison has had some time in the circle. A couple others. I think we've had one freshman take some time in the circle as well. So that's nice to see
Sam
them
Bowie.
both.
That's right.
Yeah, Sam Bowie. Yeah, yeah, not one of the Twin Towers, but
No.
yeah, it's good to see that continuation, some continuity there with some pitchers that have been around for a while, but also starting to see the new ones coming in to prepare for the future. It's a good balance of that I see.
Indeed it is. And we're just looking at the clock here. We're almost on the noon hour. So let's go ahead and roll into some final thoughts today on what's been an action-packed broadcast for y'all. We've covered a lot of stuff here in 59 minutes, but we'll start it out with Daryl. Final thoughts for you, Daryl?
I'm excited for ACC conference play, or conference tournament. Sorry, but this game against Notre Dame is huge. The Notre Dame is not going to go down without a fight, so the team's got to finish the season strong. And I think that all the starters have a really good showing. It's looking at the game last time they played, and I think it was Kiana, Haley, and Chelsea Hall had a great showing. So they'll build off that, and Emily and Olivia are going to chime in and be in double-digit scoring.
Looking for a big game from Liz, too. So hopefully all that'll transpire, Daryl. Let's hope that everything you said will happen and we win by 20. Case, final thoughts.
Yeah, just a brief mention of what I wrote in the article today. Shout out to Gabrielle Leon, who set a new personal best, new school record yesterday in the ACC Indoor Track and Field Championships with a 14.5-foot pole vault. So that was pretty high. Unfortunately, she was beaten by half a foot by someone out of Virginia Tech, the hosting team, who set a new ACC record with a 15-foot 1 pole vault. It's insane to me to I mean how good Gabrielle Leon has been and how many records she's broken, her own record numerous times, and then still to be beat rather soundly by someone who just got all the way up. Pole vault is one of the coolest sports, and how they can just play off of each other and use that adrenaline to just get even higher is pretty cool. But shout out to her for another school record.
Absolutely so. She's been such a stalwart in the field events for the pole vault, for the cards, and certainly a very nice person to chat with as well. I do have enjoyed my interviews with her over the years. All right, Jeff, what's going on in that mine of yours for final thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go along the same sort of tack Case did. I've been watching Emily Scott in the high jump as a former volleyballer, now doing high jump. She did compete in the high jump at the ACC yesterday and set a personal best at 1.7 meters. That is good for 12th place for her. 11th place was teammate Soledad Jean, and I do not know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I hope I am. Top level finisher was in ninth with Steliana Ioannidou. Looks Greek to me, so I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right either. So, congratulations to them. Emily Scott doing great things. It's been fun to watch. Got to watch her for 4 years in volleyball, and now kind of keep up with her high jumping.
Absolutely so. She's still getting elevation in either
Yep.
sport. That's right. For me, final thoughts here. I'm going to keep it in the volleyball vein, but I'm going to extend a very, very happy birthday wishes to Tori Dilfer. How about the Tori? As her birthday is today, and certainly if you're a Louisville volleyball fan at all, you know what she's meant to this program over the years, and certainly one of those ones that will be long in Cardinal volleyball fans' memories once she is, no longer playing for the squad. And just as a sidebar, I'm kind of looking at Louisville lacrosse is saying 1 hour toward game time, and they put this at 51 seconds ago. So I'm not sure if they've moved the game to 1 o'clock or not. I guess we can all turn over to the ACC Network Extra and find out here, because theoretically they should be started by now if that's true. But I want to thank everybody for listening today. Certainly always glad to have you on board, and we'll catch you here next Saturday, 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. or p.m., depending on what part of the world you're in. Unless you know something we don't. Thanks, everybody, and go Cards.